noticed the album that came out a year ago sold very well here. Maybe didn't do quite as well back home in the States, but did you follow the sales status in each country?
I know here that it's almost gold, and I know that, and I know in the States, I don't know what it did in the States. I know it didn't do gold, but I don't keep up on it that much. Only certain times, every 6 months I call up my manager and ask him, is there anything happening? Should I get a real job? Or all that kind of stuff. But it's done okay, I think.
You might not keeping up with the business side, or is it just...
It's just too complicated. It's just too complicated. And I think whatever's going to happen is going to happen, so... It's unpredictable, and it's better just if there's good news, you'll hear about it eventually. So that's why I don't pay attention to it that much.
あなたが今そのステージに立っててすごくこう楽しげな。
You seem to be enjoying yourself quite a bit. At least he says when he sees you on stage, and you would imagine that can be attributed to the fact that you're communicating. There's more of a feeling of unity that you and your fans there. So maybe one other thing is that you're freed from the business complications that seem to always inhibit Guns N' Roses.
Yeah, lawsuits inhibit those guys. Lawsuits. Just with this band, it's very simple and just straightforward music, and the fans. I mean, this trip here to Japan, the fans were just great, just fantastic, and I think that has a lot to do with it. There's a good vibe amongst the band as well, and that's important. That's real important. I mean, that can, I think that determines. You can, if you go to see a band, you can see if everybody's not getting along or something. There's something. I don't know if you can pinpoint it, but the band vibe is good.
Is that just a musical thing or a personality thing?
It's a lot of both, I guess. It's I would say, I guess, musically, probably first. But I think they're equally important. The personality and the music compatibility is important. And it seems to, with Ju Ju Hounds, we've got the best of both, so it seems to work good. Yeah.
I understand that you're, enjoying yourself and things feel very good right now. But are there any sort of stress-causing situations now? Is there anything that you find tough to deal with at this moment?
Just the lawsuits from years ago with Guns N' Roses. The Stevie Adler, the original drummer, he's suing the band. St. Louis, I had a summons to appear in court the day I left to come here. I'm going through my mail, and there's a summons to appear in court in St. Louis. And it's stuff that I'm kind of because I was in the band at the time. I keep getting this kind of stuff, but that's the only thing that's a pain in the ass. Other than that, I've got no major worries.
Nothing with this band, right?
No, this thing, it's. I mean, it's so far it's great. No major obstacles or problems. I mean, yeah, it's like we all, we've been off for the Ju Ju Hounds tour stopped, I think, into March, in the U.S., and everybody's worked on different projects and different tours in the meantime, and it was real great for everybody to get together again back here in Japan and to do this tour. Just felt good to see everybody again. It's really great.
Part
of the problems that haunt you from your Guns N' Roses days, you nonetheless agreed to play with the band in high school.
Yeah.
You did a little stint with them.
We did 5 shows.
5 shows. Why did you agree to do that in spite of all these nightmares?
Part of the reason was I had time off in Indiana. I wasn't really doing anything important. I was working on bikes, motorcycles, and thought, well, maybe it's fun. They're playing Turkey, they played Greece, they played Israel. I thought maybe it's cool to go see those places. I'd never been, and I knew all the music, so it wasn't like I had to study or practice much. You know, I just take a guitar and go over. But the main reason was, for the year and a half since I left them, they had never paid me all the money that I was owed.
Is that right?
Yeah, because there was dispute of what's what. So I told them, I said, look, tell your people to call my people and write up some paperwork and, you know, pay me my fucking money, and I'll gladly come over and help you guys out. Because they were kind of in a position where if they didn't do the shows, they would have lost like a lot of money. And, you know, Axel said he had his big $3 million house and the mortgage payments were high. And I said, well, I said, okay. I said, pay me what you guys owe me and I'll go do it. So sure enough, you know, the papers were signed, faxed, and I got on a plane. But after doing it, I was like, you know, I could never go back and live like those guys live and tour like they do and be a part of it. I just can't relate to it at all.
This might overlap with what you were saying a second ago about never wanting to do it again, but you, with the Ju Ju Hounds, you were on the club circuit there, performed to small houses, and when you got back with the Guns, I guess you were performing for a large audience.
50,000, yeah.
What did that tell you? I mean, what sort of things did you feel? Or think
Well,
when you got back?
I mean, a good show is a good show. I mean, if it's a good show and there's 300 people, it's a good show. You know, you can have a good show of 50,000 people. You can have a good show of 300 people. And you have a bad show, it's the same thing. If it's bad, it's bad. And, you know, it's just, you never know. You never know what it's going to be. It's always different, the level of intensity or whatever. But that keeps it interesting, too.
But the size of the audience is not, for you, necessarily important.
No, it's pretty thrilling, you know, to walk out to 50,000 people and hear that many people scream. It's pretty exciting, you know. But it's exciting as well, you know. Like well, these shows we did here this time around. It's like, you know, you hear the first night we did in Osaka, you know. I haven't heard an audience since March. You know, 5 months off. You know, I heard motorcycles and, you know, dogs and all that kind of stuff. And then you hear these people screaming like, whoa. Kind of wakes you up. It's cool.
You would imagine that going back to Guns N' Roses and playing the songs you'd written a few years ago must have made you aware that maybe your Ju Ju Hounds stuff is quite a bit different and you've changed. Did you sense a big gap between the two, between the gun stuff you've written in the past and your stuff?
Well, yeah, I think the Ju Ju Hounds stuff is a little bit simpler, a little bit more basic, which is really what I like. And the main and the most obvious difference, I would say, is the vocal style of the Guns N' Roses, because I could have taken a song like Shuffle It All or Cutting the Rug into Guns N' Roses band, and it would have, you know, because Axl's a singer and he's got that high screeching voice, so it would have sounded, you know, it would have done different. I'm sure he would have wanted to add some keyboards and a lot more extra stuff to it. Whereas with the Ju Ju Hounds, we get, you know, basic tracks done, we do them live, and then maybe dub a solo and some backups, and if it needs a keyboard or some shaker, that's it, you know, and it's done. So it's much more basic, this Ju Ju Hounds.
More automatic.
Yeah, more spontaneity, I think.
But enough to see you perform new songs with this tour. How far are you along with new material?
4 weeks. We're going into track the first half of the new album, and probably in December or January we'll finish the other half.
But you have new material completed now?
Yeah.
Oh, but how come you're not doing it on the road?
Well, I don't know. We didn't play any new stuff this time. Yeah, the first time we came here, we played all the same stuff, but the record wasn't out. So now that the record had been out for a while, we kind of wanted to concentrate on, you know, kind of playing a lot of the stuff we played before, hoping, you know, so that people would be a little more familiar with it. Some of the new songs will just kind of go over. It's, you know, unless it's. I mean, I like to play the stuff that people are familiar with.
For this song list here. You
Oh,
seen the
yeah.
shoe stuff from the 50s. Is that stuff you listen to personally?
Yeah, yeah. It's some of my favorite stuff. For some reason, I don't know why, but I guess I like the simplicity of it, because you can play the CD or the tape and you can hear the guitar, you can hear both guitars, you can hear the piano, and you can hear the drums, and you can hear the bass, and you can hear the vocals. Everything's so clear, and that's what turns me on about it. A lot of bands that are popular, like I don't keep up so much, but usually if I'm looking on the MTV or radio back in the U.S., and I can't make so much out of it, I mean, I like new stuff like Nirvana stuff. I love that stuff because it's basic and it's primitive and you can, it's instant. But I really like that older stuff.
For recent stuff, you find yourself taking off into other than your Nirvana?
I really like that Shaggy song, "Oh Carolina." That just knocked me out when I heard that. I was like, man, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, they play it in Indiana on the radio, and they got a new radio station in Indiana that's kind of plays alternative stuff, which is great because for the last, up until the last year or so, or year and a half, they still repeat the Foreigner and Led Zeppelin and Molly Hatchet. I mean, they just play that stuff, continuous sticks, and they play it. And after, I said, God, they were playing this stuff in 1980 when I left to move out to California. They're still playing it. And I like that music, but it was so cool to hear, some alternative. It's nice. And I guess the Nirvana, the Shaggy. What else? Other than that, I haven't really kept up. I really don't even know what's going on. There's probably some great stuff that I'm missing.
Well, things are going really well with the Ju Ju Hounds, as we mentioned several times now. But in your own case, what do you think is more important for you to? Should you approach music as like a hobby or for fun, or should you approach it as like a professional music? Should you approach it as a career? Which is better, do you think?
Part-time job.
Really? So part-time job, right?
It's just a bad habit or something. I don't know. It's the career thing. I mean, no, definitely not, because it's such a sort of iffy. It's such a questionable existence, really, to be a musician. I mean, because there's just so many people that play, but there's no way they can make a living doing it. I'm sure there's a lot of people, in California that when Guns N' Roses first started, you see so many bands, so many people, and they disappear each year, and they disappear. But at the same time, when we started, that was the only thing that we were going to do. So I guess instead of calling it a career, it was just that was our life at that time. But nowadays, it's I don't take it that seriously like that. I just look at it as like, this is, I'm fortunate because people are interested to a point. So, we can come to Japan and play some shows, and it's great.
Well, if you open a shop in the corner, though, that's a dubious prospect as well.
That's true. That's true. That's
Make a
true.
living doing it.
That's true. I guess. Yeah, I'm just not. I don't take it as serious as I used to. It's not a life or death thing for me like it used to be.
You could get so deep into bikes or motorcycle racing that you would quit music and opt for that instead?
No, because the competition is. If you fuck up on stage, it's like people go, they laugh. But if you fuck up when you're racing, you usually break. You're out for neck, arm, legs, hips. And the guys who race, they're just. I don't know, the pro circuit back in the States, these guys are doing 130 miles an hour, then, this far apart. No, I like to watch it and, race for fun and, race my buddies and stuff, but, this is probably a lot healthier.
あなたのバイクレース
What kind of bike racing do you do? Dirt track?
Dirt track, oval, mostly just dirt track. We've got a dirt track back in Indiana that we every day race, practice on and that kind of stuff.
But you've never been in serious competition or anything?
Not professional AMA stuff, just maybe fairground races or local races with people local. But I mean, this summer I've got a bike that I've put together. I've been practicing to race, but you know, as the tour got closer to Japan, if I get busted up, then I cast or something. Yeah. So but the day before I left, I still race, but not the pro stuff. Because those guys, I mean, that's their life. That's their life. That's all they want to do is be the fastest guys. And yeah.
I
Do you think that racing motorcycles is like for you an alternative or an escape from music? Like maybe when you were with Guns there and you were feeling kind of pressure and stuff. Was it an escape hatch?
Yeah, totally. And when I stopped, back in 89, 1990, I stopped using drugs and I stopped drinking. And suddenly, you've got all this energy, and it's like, what do you do with it? Since I was a really young kid, I had a mini bike, and each few years I get something bigger and bigger. And it was something that I'd forgotten about during the Guns N' Roses days of just, so much indulgence, and that old rock and roll lifestyle bullshit, drinking and once that stopped, I was like, wow, man, bicycles and motorcycles and because when I was out in California, I would go out in the desert and ride. You spend a day on a motorcycle in the desert, and you come back and you just feel good, and calm, relaxed. Great escape for me. It saved my life.
It's kind of part two of the questioning on of how you're writing songs now. You were talking a second ago about how things just sort of naturally stay very basic in Ju Ju Hounds right now. I was wondering though, for example, in Guns N' Roses there seemed to be this idea that you guys were using a hardship, the idea of a person in dire straits as a seed for a song, as an inspiration. Yeah. But that is not really part of the equation now, is it?
No, at that time, a lot of the stuff that was written, or at least when I was in the band, was, the stuff that I wrote, some of that stuff was actually older. Off the Illusion stuff was probably a few years older than the actual Illusion records. And it was just a time when that's how I felt, I suppose. As far as Axl goes, I mean, God knows what goes on in his little mind. I can't speak for him, but for myself, that stuff a lot of that was older material. And with the Ju Ju Hounds, it's definitely a different vibe. It's more positive, I think, and different outlook, I suppose. A little bit different.
Yeah, maybe we can get a little more specific. Like what stuff would have inspired you back then that doesn't inspire you now, and what are some of the inspirations now that you didn't feel back then?
I think Aggravation was a big inspiration for Guns N' Roses. The aggravation of being this band in LA that was not popular at all. It was very disliked in the beginning. Huge success, and suddenly everyone liked them. And it was sort of aggravation, confusion, combined with indulgence and just stupidity, I guess. I don't know. Just all this stuff thrown into one big kettle, and that's some of the music that came out.
So sort of negativeness feeding on itself.
Yeah, negativity, a lot of negativity. Yeah, it sort of fed on itself.
Yeah. And now you don't have that.
When the day I left that band, I was driving out of California, man. I got to that state line, and I just felt like this big weight came off my back, man. I was like, wow, I didn't know what the hell I was going to do, but I just felt this big relief. And it was a lot of that, let it behind, let it go.
So now it's like a lot of the music now is like fueled more by joy or by carefree feeling or what?
I don't know what. It's I don't know. It could be anything, really. It can, anything can, it's just something that happens once in a while. You could be not thinking about music, but all of a sudden something starts happening and picking up something in your head and, you gravitate towards guitar or a drum kit or something, harmonica maybe, and, try to capture that idea on just tape recorder, push record, and kind of build from that, I think.
It's more of a natural, pure musical experience.
Yeah, it's something that...
Monster inside trying to get out.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. It's more of a flowing thing instead of,
You've changed quite a bit from the Guns N' Roses days. Having worked again with Axl, did you find that he changed much as well?
No. He was more aggravated when I went and did those shows than he was when I left the band. Just always tense, aggravated, flustered, pissed off or something.
Maybe that's his natural state.
That's his nature.
Yeah. So he's not going to burn out on that. That's what he thrives on.
One day he'll internally combust. Those people that spinal tap.
We'll find a pile of ashes backstage there.
In a hotel room. Axl, time for the show. Time for the show. There was a joke in L.A. once on the radio. It says, what pisses Axl Rose off more than anything in the world? And the answer was a Guns N' Roses show.
What he likes best pisses him off.
Yeah. He's a strange bird. He's got a lot of talent, though. I got to say that for him. I mean, he does. Just misdirected.
Misdirected, I mean, obviously he's producing.
It works for him. Yeah.
The people are picking up on it.
Yeah. Oh God, it's amazing. I mean, we went to Istanbul, Turkey. And you look on the map, and it's quite a ways, and you think, well, what would the culture down there? What would the people down there? What would Guns N' Roses? How would they appeal to people down there? That was my first question when they called me to do the shows. I thought, well, it'd be interesting to see, And I went down there, and there was 30,000, 40,000 people, and they were right there, boom, boom, with the band, and it's amazing. It really is.
Obviously, they're getting through somehow.
Somehow, something. It must be the energy or vibe or something. Who knows? Mass marketing. I don't know.
I think it works.
MTV, yeah.
The Turks on MTV.
Yeah.
Some fans would be tempted to liken you and Axl to a Keith Richards, Mick Jagger type of relationship, where they're sort of they're always at odds with each other or cursing at each other, but we know they've known each other for a long time, and there's sort of a inextricable bond, I guess you might say, between them. I guess the average Guns N' Roses fan wants to believe that the same with you and Axl.
I don't know him very well. It seems these days I don't. I thought I did, a long time ago, but I went out and did the tour, and he's I don't know. Maybe he's just we're at two different points in our lives. I've taken a different exit than he did, and I don't.
People do drift apart.
Yeah. He's.
Certain differences can't be overcome, I suppose.
Yeah, I think the things that are important to him aren't important to me. I think that's probably a lot to do with it.
Different values.
Different values, yeah.
Did Ju Ju Hounds have a motto?
No. No, just a set list.
何もないよ。ソングリストしかないよ。
なんか考えて。
Does something come to mind?
Well, it's no. Well, it's the other thing I could say is like if there's never any serious debating or analyzing anything in this band when it comes to songs or parts. It's always real quick, and if it doesn't work, it instantly switches to something else. So it's sort of, how would you describe that? It's sort of, when you analyze it, I guess you would miss the point. Well, we have no motto, though. It's just more freestyle, I guess.
It works or it doesn't.
Yeah, it's pretty quick, and there's not much, we don't spend any time, thinking about it all. We just play it.
Cruise it or lose it.
Yeah. That's it.
That's it. You never have been gripped by the anxiety of the prospect of like being completely unable to sell records, completely unable to make a living as a musician?
In the early GNR days, it was everybody in the band was very desperate, and it was hard to. We knew at one point there was a point where we reached a popularity in LA where we thought, we figured, well, if we get a record deal, then we're set. Everything will be great. We'll get to leave the U.S. and tour the rest of the world. And we got a record deal, and I think we spent the advance. They gave us an advance, and it was spent like 4 weeks, 5 weeks, and everybody's going, "How much money you got left?" And it's like, $150, Stevie's gone, and suddenly we're going, "What the fuck did we do?" And we hadn't even cut a record. We hadn't even gone into the studio to do the album, and then when Alan Niven came in to manage the band, he put everybody on salary of $100 a week. And at that point, everybody started feeling, I know at least myself, it felt like, well, now we know we're going to have $100 a week for the next year while we do the record and find a producer and all of that stuff. And I'd say from that point on, there was never any anxiety of if we were going to be able to make a living. Funny enough, though, once the band did make it big and everybody made a lot of money, suddenly there was, a lot of people coming out of the, the woodwork, they say, and countless lawsuits and stuff, and people claiming that they had written this and written that, and you're going, what's going on here? And you realize it's like, when something happens that big and there's that much money involved, there's also these other factors that surround it, and that was, that can be kind of disturbing as well. And then now I just look at it all as like, I don't know. I've had nothing, and I've gone full circle from having nothing to having, a house and a car, a bunch of motorcycles, and it's.
Not something you really think about.
No.
Well, they say anything that works now, it's just like gravy. It's not like an investment paying off.
No, it's we toured on the last tour. We toured for I think 6 months, but touring is very expensive, and we didn't make any money. You lose money. But you figure you do a record, do some touring, do another record, and just continue. And, who knows where it goes.
最後にもう一つ聞きたいんだけどさ。
About you now, you're very relaxed and enjoying yourself. Do you think you've returned to the original you, or do you think that you've become this way as a result of having gone through the hardships and whatnot, the Guns N' Roses?
I think I've just sort of become this way, because as a kid I was always like angst all the time, always moving around, but gone through a lot of changes and a lot of different changes, I guess, from not knowing anything about what it was all about, but just wanting to play music and be able to travel. That was the only real reason I ever thought it would be great, because you think how great if you can form a band, which is like a small gang or something, or a group of friends, club or something, and then be able to take the club all over and travel. That was the main thing that appealed to me. I thought it would be great if that could happen, and then that's something else. But you know, it's never, I guess, like you imagine it. But I've got no complaints. I'm happy with it.
Thanks, Izzy.
Thank you.
Sure. There's more of a feeling of unity that you and your fans are. So maybe one other thing is that you're freed from the business complications that seem to always inhibit Guns N' Roses.
Yeah, lawsuits, inhibit those guys. Lawsuits, just with this band, it's very simple and just straightforward music, and the fans, I mean, this trip here to Japan, the fans were just great, just fantastic. And I think that has a lot to do with it. There's a good vibe amongst the band as well, and that's important. That's real important. I mean, that can, you know, I think that determines.
I guess the album that came out a year ago sold very well here. Maybe didn't do quite as well back home in the States, but did you follow the sales status in each country?
I know here that it's almost gold, and I know that, and I know in the States, I don't know what it did in the States. I know it didn't do gold, but I don't keep up on it that much. Only certain times, you know, every 6 months I call up my manager and ask them, is there anything happening? Should I get a real job? Or all that kind of stuff. But it's done okay, I think.
Enjoying yourself and things feel very good right now, but are there any sort of stress-causing situations now? Is there anything that you find tough to deal with at this moment?
Just the lawsuits from years ago with Guns N' Roses. You know, the Stevie Adler, the original drummer, he's suing the band. St. Louis, I had a summons to appear in court the day I left to come here. You know, I'm going through my mail, and there was a summons to appear in court in St. Louis. You know, and it's stuff that I'm kind of like, because I was in the band at the time. You know, I keep getting this kind of stuff, but you know, that's the only thing that's a pain in the ass. Other than that, I've got no major worries.
Nothing with this band, right?
No.
You might not keeping up with the business side, or is it just?
It's just too complicated. It's just too complicated. And I think whatever's going to happen is going to happen. So it's unpredictable, and it's better just, I think, just if there's good news, you'll hear about it eventually. So that's why I don't pay attention to it that much.
あなたが今そのステージに立っててすごくこう楽しげな。
You seem to be enjoying yourself quite a bit. At least he says when he sees you on stage, and you would imagine that can be attributed to the fact that you're communicating.
You can, I mean, if you go to see a band, you can see if everybody's not getting along or something. There's something, I don't know if you can pinpoint it, but you know, the band vibe is good.
Is that just a musical thing or a personality thing?
It's a lot of both, I guess. It's I would say, I guess, musically probably first. Well, but I think they're equally important. The personality and the music compatibility is important, and it seems to with Ju Ju Hounds, it's we've got the best of both, so it seems to work good.
What was the question?
Yeah.
I understand that you're, enjoying